بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم رب النور العظيم ورب الكرسي الرفيع ورب البحر المسجور ومنزل التوراة والإنجيل والزبور ورب الظل والحرور ومنزل القرآن العظيم ورب الملائكة المقربين والأنبياء المرسلين. اللهم إني أسألك بوجهك الكريم وبنور وجهك المنير وملكك القديم يا حي يا قيوم، أسألك باسمك الذي أشرقت به السماوات والأرضون وباسمك الذي يصلح به الأولون والآخرون، يا حيا قبل كل حي ويا حيا بعد كل حي ويا حيا حين لا حي، يا محيي الموتى ومميت الأحياء، يا حي لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم بلغ مولانا الإمام الهادي المهدي القائم بأمرك صلوات الله وعلى آبائه الطاهرين عن جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها، سهلها وجبلها وبرها وبحرها، وعني وعن والدي من الصلوات زنة عرش الله ومداد كلماته وما أحصاه علمه وأحاط به كتابه. اللهم إني أجدد له في صبيحة يومي هذا وما عشت من أيام عهدي وعقدا وبيعة له في عنقي لا أحول عنها ولا أزول أبدا. اللهم اجعلني من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين عنه والمسارعين إليه في قضاء حوائجه والمحامين عنه والسابقين إلى إرادته والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم إن حال بيني وبينه الموت الذي جعلته على عبادك حتما مقضيا فأخرجني من قبري مؤتزرا كفني شاهرا سيفي مجردا قناتي ملبيا دعوة الداعي في الحاضر والبادي. اللهم أرني الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل ناظري بنظرة مني إليه وعجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه وأوسع منهجه واسلك بي محجته وأنفذ أمره واشدد أزره واعمر اللهم به بلادك وأحي به عبادك، فإنك قلت وقولك الحق ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس، فأظهر اللهم لنا ولوليك وابن بنت نبيك المسمى باسم رسولك حتى لا يظفر بشيء من الباطل إلا مزقه ويحق الحق ويحققه، واجعله اللهم مفزعا لمظلوم عبادك وناصرا لمن لا يجد له ناصرا غيرك، ومجددا لما عطل من أحكام كتابك ومشيدا لما ورد من أعلام دينك وسنن نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، واجعله اللهم ممن حصنته من بأس المعتدين. اللهم وسر نبيك محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله برؤيته ومن تبعه على دعوته وارحم استكانتنا بعده. اللهم اكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة بحضوره وعجل لنا ظهوره، إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين وهو خير ناصر ومعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين صلى على محمد وآله. أما بعد, my dearest younger brothers and my respected younger sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very excited and delighted to have this event with all of you. I'm hoping that it's going to be an interactive program, inshallah. I have done so much talking throughout the days and nights that have passed. I want to do some listening now. I want to hear you guys out and basically learn from you. I'm not so much here to teach as I'm here to learn, okay? So first of all, you guys have been attending the lectures at night. You've been listening to the English majalis, okay? Is everything clear in terms of the content that we covered? Or are there any doubts or clarifications that you wanted? Anything that you didn't understand or you wanted more explanations for? Or was it all clear? Everything's clear? Okay, no questions about any of the... It's all understood? Okay, great, mashallah. If I were to ask you what were the most important things that you learned from this series, what would you say? Would anyone have...
Controlling your anger is one of the biggest, I think, one of the biggest topics to put emphasis on.
Okay.
I've been trying to control my anger ever since you made that speech. So far, it's going well.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Good to know, alhamdulillah. Controlling anger, yeah. Absolutely, especially when you're in that teenage phase, you know. Sometimes you lose your temper very easily. Sometimes you get provoked very easily. So it's always a good thing to keep this in mind, that the example and the way of our imams is that of akhlaq. And akhlaq means controlling your anger and not venting it out on other people. Remember, when the Holy Prophet ﷺ talked about his mission and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had raised him to the station of prophethood, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him to the human beings, what did he define as his main mission? He did not say that إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ, that Allah sent me, He made me a prophet so that I should make you guys pray, or so that I should ask you to fast, or so that I should ask you to pay the zakah. You know, Islam has so many things in it, but He didn't mention any of those. What did He mention as the purpose of His mission and His message? Anyone remember? The main purpose of His mission, He said, was إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated me to the station of prophethood. He made me a prophet so that I may complete and perfect the morals and akhlaq of humanity. So that I may take humanity to the highest possible level of sublime morality. So the Prophet came to perfect our akhlaq. And that's why akhlaq has a very important place in Islam. As we mentioned, it is a heaven and hell issue. Whether you go to heaven, Jannah or Jahannam will be determined to a very significant degree by how good your akhlaq was. With your parents, with your siblings, with your fellow Muslims, with your fellow non-Muslims. Islam teaches us to be good to everyone, right? As Imam Ali alayhi salam used to say, that an-nasu ithnan, right? Human beings are of two kinds. One is your brother in faith, the other is your equal in humanity. So you need to exhibit the highest possible standards of good akhlaq with everyone. What else? Does anyone else want to volunteer what they learned from this series? That was the only thing we learned from this series? Or were there other lessons? Yes, I see some hands now.
So you talked about doing our namaz on time.
Okay.
Oh,
okay, mashallah. Yeah, that was what we covered in yesterday's lecture, yeah? The importance of salah on time. That is a very important habit to cultivate, and if you cultivate it within yourself early on, it's going to be very easy later on, right? So this is the age that you start, And once you develop the habit, then you will see yourself praying salah on time all the time, right? In my case, I have nephews and nieces your age, and mashallah, because they started praying at a young age, they're very particular about their salah, mashallah, and they also make sure everyone else in the house is praying. So in their household, it's the opposite. Normally in households, you see parents running after the children, saying that it's time for salah, stop with those video games and put the mobile phone away, or, turn off the telly. It's time for salah. Well, in their case, because they developed this habit early on, now they're so passionate about it, my nieces, that they don't let anyone do anything at the time of salah. I remember, so when I go to visit them, they live in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge. So a lot of times when I come from a long flight, okay, I'm jet lagged and I want to sleep. But my niece, if it's time for salah, she's not going to let me sleep. In fact, before, what used to happen was that my sister would try and come and wake me up. But waking me up is not an easy project sometimes when I'm in deep sleep. So she's very clever and smart. She sends my little niece, because she knows she'll do the job. This little niece of mine, she's called Sayyidah Aqila. She is a human alarm clock. In fact, it would be, I think the human alarm clock does not convey one thing, because normal alarm clocks have a snooze button on it. But this alarm clock is without a snooze button, because the only time she's going to stop is when she sees you actually go and do the wudu. You can't say that, okay, I'm going to wake up in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or no. She has to see you get out of the bed and go to pray. That's when she's going to stop. Otherwise, she's going to keep on, she keeps on saying, wake up, Animamu, wake up, Animamu, and then she starts calling you names. Wake up, you sleepy head, and wake up, you this and that, and you snooze, you lose, and she gives long lectures. And in the end, you just have to wake up and say the salah, no matter how tired you are. So in any case, salah is a very important thing, and I'm very glad that, mashallah, you caught that lesson. This is really the mu'jiza of this first Azah. And the real challenge of being a speaker here is that you're addressing such diverse age groups. You have, our little ones, and you have senior citizens, and you have to present your content in such a way that everyone is able to take something back. And the fact that they're able to do that, mashallah, shows you what a supremely unparalleled university this first Azah is. That, everyone comes here and everyone gets something that they can relate to, alhamdulillah. So yeah, anyone wants to volunteer more? Any more things that you learned?
And I don't qualify a mom here, but one of the things that you said yesterday that made an impact on me was to read Sayfa Sajjadiya.
Oh, okay,
right?
mashallah.
Especially at a time when you're seeking peace and contemplation and reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I pulled one up and found a couple of du'as that I want to include in my space.
In your daily routine, mashallah. That's amazing. Sahifa Sajjadiya really is a life-changing book, I'll tell you. Personally, after the Holy Quran and Nahjul Balagha, if there's any book that I recommend for reading, it is Sahifa Sajjadiya. If your goal is ma'rifah, if you want to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no better book. Sahifa Sajjadiya will let you know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The simple things that the Imams mentions in this book are so powerful. They change your concept of God. They make you understand Allah even better. So that is really beautiful, mashallah. And I'm glad that this advice also resonated with you. Sahifa Sajjadiya, absolutely. Very, very powerful book, mashallah. And the more you'll read it, the more you'll see changes in your life. Personally, my dad tells me that, for example, growing up, I used to be a very naughty kid. And I was into all sorts of video games and stuff and all of that. And I don't have any of my friends over here, but if you ask my childhood friends, they'll tell you all kinds of stories. But really, one of the books that really sobered me up and got me serious about my own akhirah and my hereafter, and really piqued my interest in finding more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was this book. It really changes your perceptions. So that's very good. Anyone else wants to? Yeah? Staying away from shaitan. Okay, that's the lesson that you learned. Okay, and how would you do that? Staying away from shaitan?
Like reading dua and praying namaz on time.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's very good. Praying namaz on time and reading the dua or reading du'as or making du'as, it keeps you away from shaitan. Very good. Anyone else? Yeah, you had.
Shaitan attacks you from front,
Mm-hmm.
front, from the right, the left, and the back, but it doesn't attack you from the top and the bottom.
Wow, mashallah. How old are you?
9.
9, mashallah. Wow, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Yeah, he just presented the verse 17 of surah number 7. Mashallah, beautiful, beautiful. Anyone else before we proceed? Yeah? Okay, mashallah, I'm very glad to see that you guys were paying attention and that you actually learned the lessons and you're taking them back, inshallah, and hopefully you'll apply them in your life. So, in the workshop that we have this evening, we want to look into some of the things that we mentioned here. Imam Ali alayhi salam's expectations from his followers. So the aim of this workshop at the end of the day is to get us to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better so that we are able to justify our beliefs with logic. Remember, at the Saturday school level, you will be taught, right, that Islam is divided into 2 parts. You've got the usul-e-din, the roots of religion, and the furu-e-din, right, the offshoots and the branches of religion. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that when it comes to usul-e-din, these are the roots, the foundations of the religion of Islam, okay? And the furu-e-din, these are the branches. What do you have under the furu-e-din? You have things like salah and fasting and zakah, all the practical things, yeah? Here under usul-e-din, you have the theory of Islam. You have things like tawheed, yes? Adl, nubuwat, imamat, qiyamat, all these things, yeah? Let's begin with tawheed. Belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The thing that the ulama and scholars will tell you about usul al-din is that you're not allowed to do taqleed in this. You know what taqleed is? Following a scholar, right? There are scholars who devote their whole lives to studying Islam, and then they present their researches, and then you can consult them and follow those researches. That is called taqleed. However, taqleed is only for furu'-e-din. However, for usul-e-din, taqleed is haram. It is forbidden. You are not allowed to follow anyone when it comes to usul-e-din, meaning that everything that you believe as part of the usul-e-din has to be the product of your own investigation and your own research. So you should be able to prove everything that you believe. And especially in this world today, this is important. Why? Because a lot of the times when you will go to school, when you'll grow up and go to college, you'll meet a lot of people who don't belong to your faith. You will meet many atheists who will challenge you, and they'll ask you, they'll say, you believe in God? Oh, I don't believe in any God. Well, what proof do you have for the existence of God? How do you know there is a God? We can't see Him, we can't sense Him, we can't scientifically prove His existence, so on what grounds do you believe? How do you know there is a God? How would you respond to that? Anyone? You're about to raise your hand? Yeah? Okay, yeah? By His? Okay, you seem to have a very good point. Could you elaborate? Could you explain further? Oh, okay. Okay. So she's arguing that trees are a very good proof of the existence of God because these trees could not just create themselves. Someone must have created them. Humans are also proof of God's existence. And how is that?
Someone had to create things like trees or living things.
Okay, so he's arguing, again, argument by creation, this is called, that you look at human beings. If you look at the human body is a very complex machine. It has got so many intricate systems inside it that you will study in the sciences at your school. In biology, for example, they'll teach you about the nervous system, they'll teach you about the circulatory system, they'll teach you about the digestive system, right? There's so many systems that are working inside you, and such a complex and complicated machinery could not come about without a creator, right? Okay, very good. You want to add to that?
Also, another way to prove God's existence is if you look at everything created, it's such in a perfect way that there's like no possibility that all this could have been created by chance. If you look at the earth in relation to the sun, a little bit closer, the earth would burn up. A little bit farther, the earth would freeze. If you look at all these complex life forms, there's no way that all of this was created by chance.
Beautiful. So what he's talking about is what scientists refer to as the fine-tuning of the universe. When scientists study the universe, they find out that everything in this universe is fine-tuned to perfection, and it's also fine-tuned to supporting life on this planet Earth. Why don't you have life on Mars? Why don't you have life on Jupiter, for example, or Mercury? Because the conditions there are not hospitable, they're not conducive to supporting human life, or any kind of life for that matter. So how is it that on this planet Earth, you had all the right conditions? Well, because everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He tells you in the Quran, we made very precise calculations and we placed everything where it is supposed to be. So you find, as he was mentioning, that the distance of the earth from the sun, the earth is at just the right distance away. If it was any closer to the sun, we would burn out, right? If it was any further away from the sun, we would freeze to death. And that's what's happening on other planets. So Mercury is too hot, and Saturn and Pluto and these other planets, they're really cold. And that's why they don't support life, because for life you need a certain temperature. So everything is so perfect, there is so much symmetry and there is so much harmony. And even if you look at the earth itself, you're talking about the sun, right? But the sun in itself is a very dangerous object. It emits all kinds of really harmful radiation, right? What do we call that radiation? UV, right? Ultraviolet rays. Do you know that if these ultraviolet rays were allowed to reach the earth unobstructed, you and I would not be able to come out of our houses? Why? Because the moment you come out of your house, you would come back looking like an overbaked pizza. Because these UV rays would basically fry you. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do to protect us? He created a layer that's called the Amazon? The atmosphere, okay, you're close to it, yeah. The horizon, okay, yeah. Yeah, you, yeah. The ozone layer, very good. We have some young scientists here. The ozone layer, yeah. So this is just one thing. There are so many other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed in this whole system to protect us from the different hazardous substances that exist. So all of that goes to show that there must be a creator. Okay, anyone else has something to add? In terms of, so the rest of you, what arguments would you give if your friend at school or at college were to challenge you and say, how do you prove the existence of God? I hope we don't have anyone here who would say, well, I believe in God simply because my parents said so, or my parents, or the Maulana was talking about God in the mimbar, so he must exist. Because that's what we said, taqleed is not allowed. You're not allowed to follow your parents, you're not allowed to follow scholars, you have to do your own homework, right? Everyone has to do their own homework. You have to find your own proofs and your own evidences for believing in God. And that's why the most we can do is we can present the proofs. If they convince you, you accept them. But if they don't convince you, you search for further proofs until you find proofs that convince you. Because on the Day of Judgment, when you show up in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't think that Allah will just accept you as a Muslim just because you declare yourself to be a Muslim. You say, you know what, my name is Ali or Muhammad, and I'm a Muslim, and all my friends were Muslim, and my parents were Muslim, so I'm a bona fide card-carrying member of the Muslim community. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept that. You know why? Because then it's going to be unjust. Because the non-Muslims will then argue, they'll say, well, you know, these people were lucky. They were born into the Muslim household, so they got all the correct teachings and they just followed their parents blindly, and that's what we did. So we followed our parents blindly. We worshipped other gods because our parents were worshipping other gods, or we didn't believe in God because our parents didn't believe in God. And these people, they believed in you, God, not because they had any proofs, but because they simply followed their parents. So how are they any different from us? Don't you think that's a valid objection that they might make? So you need to prove that, no, we are not Muslims simply because our parents said so. We're Muslims because we did our own homework, we did our research, and our research led us to believe that all of this beauty and all of this perfection and all of this fine-tuning, everything being in the right place. You know, I don't want to put you to sleep, but if we go into the depths of the sciences, whether it's biology, whether it's chemistry, whether it's physics, every subject, the more you study it and the deeper you go, you will see the signs of Allah's greatness, you will see the signs of Allah's oneness, you will see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's perfection. Okay? And inshallah, as you grow up and as you continue with your studies, you will see more of that. So, it is very important for you to keep in mind that this argument of hearsay, meaning what you hear from here and there from your parents or your teachers, or that will not work in usul-e-din. In furu'-e-din, yes, because these are the branches of religion, you get to have the benefit of following the research of other people, because not everyone can do that deep of a research, right? However, in usul-e-din, these are the basic beliefs. So everyone is supposed to have arguments and evidences and proofs that they can offer. Otherwise, the example that I like to give often is that of a court of law. If you have a court of law in the life of this world, and let's say you show up as a witness in a murder trial to give testimony, yeah? Because ultimately when you become Muslim, how do you become Muslim? By giving testimony, yeah? The shahada. What is the shahada that you take when you become Muslim or you declare your Islam? You say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness and I testify that there is no God but Allah, and I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger and prophet of Allah. So now when you testify, when you bear witness, any expert in law will tell you that in order to give testimony or to bear witness to something, you need to have underlying knowledge. There has to be, your testimony has to be based on knowledge. It cannot be based on hearsay or what you've heard from here and there. So if you were to show up in a court of law in a murder trial, and the judge or the prosecutor were to ask you that, okay, you are here in the witness stand, and you are testifying that person A committed, murdered person B, what's your evidence? What's your proof? You are testifying, where is the evidence? Now, in response to a question like this, if you were to simply say that, well, I know that person A murdered person B because my father said so, or my mother told me about that, is the judge going to accept that? No, he's going to strike that off the record. He's going to tell the jury to disregard it. Why? Because this is hearsay. And he might ask you, well, okay, who told your father or your mother about this murder? Did they see it themselves? So no, he heard it from his father, or my mother heard it from her father, and her father heard it from her father. So, so in any case, this kind of reasoning is not going to work. The judge is going to send you to jail for contempt, for wasting the court's time. So imagine if in a worldly court of law this kind of logic and reasoning cannot work, imagine in Allah's court of law when you show up on the Day of Judgment and Allah says, okay, you testified there is no God but Allah. Where was your proof? What is your evidence? And you say, well, my parents told me, or my mom said that, or my dad said that, or my teacher said. That's not going to work. You need to have your own proofs. Okay? So I hope that is clear and you all understand the importance of having these proofs. So is there any other argument that anyone has apart from the, for the existence of God?
God's miracles, like Zamzam.
Zamzam, okay. The miracles of God prove the existence of God, okay.
Also, like this atheist might argue, like if you say like who made the earth, and you might say like the Big Bang theory, but then like there's always like constant change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's like taking care of the world like, right now, like why is there like
Oh, okay. That's another great argument. So the first argument was argument by creation, meaning that all of this has to have a creator. But then her argument is based on maintenance. Who is maintaining this universe? You know, to maintain such a complex system, you need a lot of resources. You need a lot of energy and force and power. Where is that coming from? Your teachers at school will tell you, if you ask them, since when has the sun been revolving around its own orbit? Since when has the earth been revolving around the sun? They'll tell you for billions of years, 4 billion years for this earth. So who has been powering this earth for all these 4 billion years? And how come everything is, you know, moving in such symmetry, right? And with such perfection. So that's a very good argument. Anyone else? Any other argument? So this is argument for the existence. Now we come to Tawheed. Tawheed means oneness. How do you prove that Allah is one? Suppose you have a polytheist friend who says that, well, I believe all of this is created, but I also believe that there isn't just one God. There are several gods. Like the Hindus, they believe in 360 million gods. Okay? Yeah, as Muslims, you find worshipping one God tough. Imagine having 360 million gods. So they would say that, you know, how do you know that there is only one God and not 2 gods or 3 gods? What's your proof for that? You need to be armed with evidences for every single claim. Yes?
Like for that one, I heard this, like a slave has one master, and like if a slave has 2 masters, there's only going to be conflict between like both the masters of like, well, what to do, like, and there's always going to be conflict between the 2 masters.
Okay, so he's citing the argument of conflict, that if there are multiple masters, there would be conflict. Very good. Anyone wants to contribute more or add to that? No? Okay, yeah, that's a fairly good argument, is that when you look at the smooth running of this universe, that tells you that there has to be one God. Because if there were 2 gods, you would see chaos and confusion in this universe. Because one God would maybe want for it to be daytime right now. The other God would say, no, I want it to be night. So the fact that everything is, you know, functioning so smoothly, night and day, and, you know, the weathers and the seasons and everything is so predictable, right? All of that gives us evidence that there is only one powerful entity that is running the show. Okay? Now I want all of you to pay attention to this question that many times atheists will confront you with. Once you give them the argument by creation. This is a tricky question. So they will refer to the argument that our sisters here have made and some of you brothers have made, that you claim that the proof of Allah's existence is this universe, right? You say, one of the sisters mentioned the trees, right? You could mention the mountains, the planets, the sun, the moon. And then you can argue from creation and say that how could all of this come into existence by itself, right? There must be a creator. So this argument is based on the idea, on the presupposition or the presumption that nothing can come into existence by itself. For everything that exists, there has to be a creator, right? If I were to tell you that, for example, this fan made itself, you would call me crazy, right? You'd say, this guy has gone nuts. How can this fan make itself? Some human being must have created it. They say, okay, what if we ask you the same question with regard to God? You say this universe cannot exist on its own without a creator, right? It cannot create itself. So what about God? You claim God created the universe. Now we are asking you, who created God? What's your response to that?
Like we believe in like that Allah was never born and never dies. So
Okay.
he's like, he was never like created.
Mm-hmm.
He never was born and he never died.
Okay, mashallah, that's a very good response. You have stated what our belief is, that we believe that Allah was never created, He was never born. This is what we recite in Surah Al-Ikhlas, yeah? In Surah Al-Tawheed. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He neither begets nor is He begotten. He was never born. But the question is that you are arguing right now that this universe could not come into existence all by itself. So how could God come into existence? If God can come into existence all by Himself, then why not the universe? How would you respond to that?
Number 1, God is eternal.
God is eternal, okay.
2, when the term came into existence means there has to be time,
Mm-hmm.
like time and space.
Okay.
And if God made time and space, He can't be restricted by it, and He's above it. So he's eternal. So there's nothing
Okay, you have again stated some very important facts, that God is eternal, very true. God transcends time and space. He is not confined by time and space, and therefore the question of Him coming into existence, not coming into existence, that is a mute question. Okay, that is all very true, but He's going to say, well, look, as believing people, the atheists, this is what they argue. They say, you make fun of us, and they deserve to be made fun of for this particular claim of theirs, that you make fun of us, that this whole universe came into existence because we claim that it came into existence all by itself. And really, that's a very funny claim to make, because what did we just say about the universe? The universe has so much perfection in it. Everything is in the right place. Everything is functioning according to a predetermined plan. If you study the periodic table, you see all the elements. They have the right arrangement, they have the right structures. You just add one electron and the properties change, and you can predict all of that. So it's like a classroom, the periodic table is just like a classroom where chairs are arranged. If anyone were to come and say, well, this classroom created itself, or it's been there like this always, no one would believe that. Why? Because the arrangement of the desks and the chairs, right, tell you that someone has been here, some intelligent being has put all of these things in the right place. When you study the periodic table, you see the same thing. So, but then the question that these atheists ask is, they say, okay, you're making fun of us for the fact that we are claiming that the universe came into existence by itself. That's what the atheists say. They believe that the Big Bang Theory is what explains the origin of the universe. What does the Big Bang Theory say? Does anyone have any idea? The Big Bang Theory, any of you have studied it at school? Not yet? Okay, when you'll go to the higher stages, you will learn about the Big Bang Theory. And the Big Bang Theory may be a complicated theory, but the simple, long and short of it is that they believe that this entire universe was compacted into a teeny tiny little ball, okay, that exploded for no apparent reason. And lo and behold, abracadabra, this whole universe came into existence through expansion, the process of expansion. It continued to expand and expand for 14 billion years, and that's how all of this came. So essentially what they're telling you is there was an accidental explosion, and everything that you see, this life on this earth, and all the solar systems, and the constellations, and the galaxies, and the stars, all of this is the product of a random, unplanned accident. And our response to that is that if it was the product of an accident, you wouldn't see perfection, you wouldn't see harmony, you wouldn't see design. There is so much design in this universe. Everything, the structure of an atom has a design inside it. The structure of our human body has an intelligent design behind it. Where did all of this design come from? Where did all this complexity and perfection come from? You don't see that in a product of an accident. The example that was given in the Urdu Majlis is that these atheists want us to believe, for example, what they're actually saying is like something that would never happen. And if anyone said, people would laugh. Have you ever seen, for example, two trucks collide headlong, and the result of their collision and their crash is that a helicopter is produced? Can you ever imagine that happening? That two trucks run headlong into each other, and as a result of that accident, from the debris of the trucks, a beautiful helicopter with a perfect, operating system inside it is born. Could that happen? No. Well, they're asking you to believe that this is how the universe came into existence. There was a blind explosion, an accidental explosion, and everything just, happy coincidence, everything fell in the right place. This is impossible. It could never happen. An accident never produces symmetry. It never produces design. If you accidentally spray something or something falls down, it's never going to fall down on a specific pattern. It's going to be confusion and chaos. That's the only thing accidents can produce. Accidents never produce design and harmony. So, yes, what the atheists say is really funny. It's ridiculous, it's ludicrous, it's impetuous. It is basically completely nonsensical. But they say that what we are saying about this universe, you are saying the exact same thing about God. You're saying we're saying the universe has no creator. It just came into existence all by itself. You're saying the same thing about God. And God is greater than the universe. So your claim is even taller than our claim. And it's even more problematic. So how do you explain to them how God came into existence? They would say, well, your argument is based on the idea that every entity that exists must have a creator, right? God exists, right? Who is his creator? Who created God? And how did he come into existence? You got to explain that to the atheist. How would you do that? Any ideas? Yeah?
You can't forget the Quran though. Although they might question its legitimacy,
Okay.
if you actually look at the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
if you present evidence like Muhammad couldn't have made the Quran or written it because he couldn't write, and like the Quran says stuff that are just being discovered today, then how is that possible?
Okay.
So everything in the Quran has to be like completely true, because there's nothing to go against.
Okay. That's a good point. You want to add to that?
If somebody created God, then this would never end. Like, in a way,
Okay, this would never end. So you're very right. You're saying this would basically lead to infinite causation, right? So if God had a creator, then we would have to ask the question, who created the creator of God? Na'udhu billah. And then that creator, we would also need a creator for him, and it would go on and on, right? So, okay, that is a good way of looking at it. However, the atheist will say that, okay, the same thing would apply to the universe then also. Why should we stop at God when we can stop at the universe? At some point you have to stop, right? It cannot be infinite causation, because if the chain of causes that ended in us, if that chain of causes has ended at us, that means it can't be infinite, right? It has to have a certain starting point. Okay, so your argument is good, but then how do you explain to them in a way that they can understand that God is different from the universe in this sense? Any more perspectives? You made the argument by Quran, okay? That's a good argument in the sense that, for example, if let's say you forgot your lunchbox when you were going to school, and then you came back from the playground and you saw this lunchbox on your table, and there was a note from your mom saying, you know, Sweepy, you forgot your lunch, and this is your lunch, so you may eat it when you come back from the playground. Now, once you see that note, you have no valid reason for arguing that this lunchbox showed up by itself. You know, if you tell your friends, you know, I forgot my lunch today, but you know, my lunchbox it's got legs and wings, so it basically flew all the way here. Even if you're in nursery school, your friends will laugh at you. They'll be like, this guy is gone crazy, he's gone berserk. So, in the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after creating the universe, He left us a note in the form of the Quran telling us why He created the universe and how He created the universe. So that's a good point, but you noticed and you observed very rightly that the atheists do not accept the legitimacy of the Quran. So we are trying to look for a logical argument that would convince them that the Quran is indeed the word of God, or some other way of explaining to them this difficult question. Yeah.
Maybe because everything has everything is a cause and effect. So like the cause, like you stop at it. Like for example, if you say like something made in a factory, it goes through like a bunch of stages, but like you could trace it back to one certain thing in the factory.
Okay.
So you can trace the creation of the universe to God.
You can trace the creation of the universe to God. Okay. But their question is, who created God? Because you see, when you argue by design, the argument that you guys made for God's existence, they apply the very same argument to God Himself. You are saying that my mind is not prepared to accept that this universe could exist without a creator. The atheist is telling you that just as you are not prepared to accept this for the universe, I'm not prepared to accept this for God. If there can't be a universe without a creator, how can there be a God without a creator?
But like, can you have like the innate feeling that like there's a creator?
The innate feeling. The atheist does not share that innate feeling. That's the problem. So how do you get him to share that innate feeling is what we are working on right now. Yeah. Any more ideas, suggestions on how you would convince your atheist friend about this? I have one way of looking at this, which is that in order to explain this to atheists, oh, okay, sure. One of the ways that we can explain this point to our atheist friends is this special recipe that I have for making chai. So yeah, I'm not good at culinary stuff. I'm very challenged in that department. But when I want to sweeten my chai, for example, my tea, I add a donut to it. I put the donut in the chai to make it sweet. Okay? And then I ask you guys the question, how did this chai become sweet? Because what you need to understand when you want to answer this question is causation. Causation is a philosophical concept, but with the help of this example of this chai and this donut, we're going to make it easy for you to understand, okay? So if I were to ask you, in terms of causation, what made my chai sweet? What would you say? What is the cause for my chai being sweet after I put the donut in it? What made it sweet? The donut, very good. That's the proximate cause. That's the nearest cause, right? Okay, so what made my donut sweet? Sugar. Okay, so now we have a chain of causation here. We have the tea that was made sweet by the donut from Dunkin' Donuts, and then the donut was made sweet by the sugar. Now my question to you is, what made the sugar sweet? What made the sugar sweet? Sugar cane? Sugar cane is where you get the sugar from. But I'm asking, what did we add to sugar to make it sweet? There must have been, is there some kind of syrup or something? What did the guys who make sugar put in it to make it sweet? Anyone? Come on, how is sugar sweet and why is it sweet? Glucose? You work at a sugar factory or what? No, you see, when sugar, if you break it down chemically, yeah, it has glucose inside it. But what is making the sugar? What do you add to sugar to make it sweet is the question. We want to find out why my chai is so sweet. So we said it's because of the donut. The donut is sweet because of the sugar. Now what's going to come here? What made the sugar sweet is what we are trying to find out. Anyone? Motion? More sugar. So if we have little sugar, it's not going to be sweet? Until you put more sugar and then it's going to become sweet? It's going to be more sweet. But we're not asking what made the sugar more sweet. We're simply asking what made it sweet. What did they add to sugar to make it sweet? Anyone? Yeah. Some type of syrup? What syrup? Corn syrup? If it was Canada, they would be saying maple syrup, huh? No. Corn syrup and maple syrup has sugar in it sometimes. That's what they use too. Or they use some other kind of sweetener. I want to know what makes sugar sweet. Yes?
Maybe your taste buds, like your perception.
Your perception and your taste buds make it sweet. Are you sure? So you mean sugar in itself is not sweet?
It's sweet, but when you eat it,
when you eat it, that's when you feel the sweetness. But that's not what makes it sweet. The sugar is sweet in itself. Right? You are able to perceive that sweetness when it comes into contact with your taste buds. But I want to know what substance, what ingredient did they add to sugar to make it sweet? Come on. This is 12th grade stuff? No, this is very simple stuff. Very, very simple stuff. Huh? It's naturally sweet. Okay. So what do you mean? What naturally sweet means? What did they add to make it sweet? They didn't add anything. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. What were you going to say? You're going to say the same thing? It's naturally sweet? Any more ideas on why sugar is sweet? Anyone else wants to? Yeah. God made it sweet. Well, we are discussing the existence of God, so you can't bring in God at this stage, otherwise it's going to become circular logic. So you're trying to prove God as the conclusion, but you're using him at the level of reasoning. So right now you can't use God. You just have to focus on sugar. Why is sugar sweet, and what did they add to sugar to make it sweet? Yeah? Chemicals? What chemical? Sugar. So they added sugar chemicals. Sweet chemicals. No, so those of you who said nothing, I think are closer to the truth. The reality is sugar, you don't have to add anything to it to make it sweet. Why? Because the moment sugar forms, the moment sugar comes into existence, sweetness is its primary quality. So here, there's a very important concept that I want you to understand. The difference between primary qualities and secondary qualities. Do you know what's the difference between these two? Anyone? Yeah? Main qualities, okay. Yeah. Primary qualities are innate, intrinsic, inherent qualities, something that is not acquired. Whereas a secondary quality is something that is acquired. What do we mean by acquired? Meaning it was not there before, but afterwards it was acquired. So for example, when I say the tea is sweet, sweetness for the tea, sweetness is a quality, right? Sweetness for the tea, is it a primary quality or a secondary quality? It's a secondary. Why? Because before I added the donut, the tea was not sweet. After I added the donut to it, it became sweet. So it acquired the sweetness, and anything that is acquired is a secondary quality. Anything that is innate, intrinsic, part of the nature of the substance, that is called a primary quality. So for example, mashallah, all of you, from the answers that you've been giving me, are knowledgeable, right? You're knowledgeable, but knowledge for you, is it a primary quality or a secondary quality? Were you always this knowledgeable? Like when you were a little baby, could you answer these questions so well? No, you didn't know anything, right? Except for the Gugu Gaga language. But then, when you came into this world, you went to school, you studied under your teachers, you came to Saturday school, okay? You got to learn a lot of things. You became knowledgeable. So knowledge for you is not a primary quality, it is a secondary quality because you acquire it after you don't have it. So coming back to this example, the sweetness, the tea is sweet, the donut is sweet, and the sugar is sweet. For the tea, sweetness is a secondary or primary quality? Which one is it? Secondary. For the donut? Secondary also. Why? Because the donut also was not sweet until they added sugar to it. Now come to sugar. For sugar, is sweetness a primary quality or a secondary quality? It's a primary quality. Why do you say that? Yeah? Wow, subhanallah, salawat for him. Beautiful. You don't add anything to sugar, right? That's what we said. That a primary quality is something that is already there right from the start. You don't have to do anything to give something its primary quality. But yes, for the secondary quality, it is acquired. Now sugar, they never added anything to sugar to make it sweet. The moment sugar was formed, the moment it came into existence, its first quality was that it was sweet. And so sweetness is a primary quality. Is this part understood? Clear? Any confusions? No? Now we come to God. You see, the problem with the atheist is that he's comparing God to the creations of God. For the creations of God, existence, the quality of being, is a primary quality or a secondary quality? Is a primary? Like, for example, you are a creation of God. Your existence is your primary quality or secondary quality? It's your primary quality. Primary, we said, is something you don't acquire. Did you always have your existence? Like when it was 1976, were you there? You were not there. So that means there was a time when you were not existent. You did not exist, and then Allah created you and you came into existence. So that means existence for you is a secondary quality because you acquired it after you didn't have it. Right? So for all of the creations of God, this universe, everything around us, for them existence is a secondary quality because they acquire it after not having it. But the thing you need to know about God is that for Him existence is not a secondary quality. That there was a time when God was not there and then God got created, na'udhu billah, or that He came into existence. No. For God, existence is a primary quality. Meaning He has always existed and existence has always been His thing. He's always been there. He has no beginning, He has no end. He is beyond the scope of space and time. And He has always been there. If the atheist corners you and says, well, how can God always be there? How can God not have a beginning? How can God not have a creator? Just tell him, how can sugar not have anything added to it to make it sweet? Just as the sweetness of sugar has no beginning, sugar is always sweet. In the same way, God's existence has no beginning. He always existed. And He has given you, in His creations, He has given you examples of things that are the way they are right from the moment they come into existence, to show you the difference. So I hope this is clear now, the difference between primary and secondary qualities. Can anyone summarize? So now if your atheist friend challenges you and says that you're claiming this whole universe could not exist without a creator, but you're making the same claim about Allah, that Allah has no creator, how would you explain? Can anyone summarize this argument for us? Anyone? It's still too complicated? That's why I gave the chai example, so that hopefully you'd remember it. Yeah, you want to summarize it?
You can basically explain it how you did with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar is always sweet,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's added to it. How can God, then it means God has always existed and nothing can create it.
Okay, just as sugar, nothing has to be added to sugar to make it sweet. In the same way, nothing has to be done to God to bring Him into existence, because for Him existence is a primary quality. Very good. How would you put it? You would? Okay. And how would you put it?
I was saying like sugar sweetness, it doesn't have a beginning.
Okay. Had a beginning. Okay, yeah. That's a very, so in short, you can put it like this and say that, well, I will answer your question about who created God and who made Him exist the day you answer my question about who made sugar sweet. Okay? Just as this question, what makes sugar sweet, has no answer because sugar is always sweet. In the same way, the question who created God has no answer to it because God always existed. So there is no question. When existence becomes your primary quality, the question of when you came into existence or how you came into existence becomes a mute question. It becomes a silly and nonsensical question. Just like if your younger brother or sister were to bother you and bug you and say, I want to know what made sugar sweet, you'll tell them, look, stop being silly. Nothing makes sugar sweet. Sugar is always sweet. In the same way, nothing makes God come into existence. God always exists. Is that clear now? You're going to remember this answer until college? Because that's when, inshallah, I see many of our youths here, it's in college where they get these kinds of questions, but I'm preparing you for this from right now, because you never know, you might face questions like this, and it's always helpful to use these kinds of examples. You can tell them we had this weird Maulana who came to our center and who used to sweeten his tea with the donuts, and basically the whole idea of this example is to establish the chain of causation. So first of all, you establish the chain of causation, number one. Number two, you teach them the difference between primary and secondary. Because unless they understand the difference between primary and secondary, they cannot understand the answer to the question, who created God? And they will not understand and appreciate how silly this question is until you compare it to a similarly silly question, which is, who made sugar sweet, or what made sugar sweet? Is that clear? Okay, any questions, follow-up questions on that? Or is everything clear? Okay, are you guys bored or do you want to continue? You want to continue? Oh, okay, you're interested. That's great, mashallah. Another argument that they will often confront you with is when it comes to the existence of God, okay? This is a very popular, common argument that they'll use, is the problem of evil argument. How many of you have heard of this before? Problem of evil. This is one of their favorite arguments. You've heard of it? Okay, and what is your understanding of the problem of evil argument?
Well, I forgot, but my dad told us that.
Okay, about the problem of evil? What is your understanding of this argument? What do you think the atheists argue who believe in this?
So that if you're not evil, then like you won't go to hell, you'll go to heaven. But if you are evil, then you'll go to hell.
Oh, okay. So, evil, yeah, he mentioned hell. It is connected to hell and heaven, okay. If you're good, you go to heaven. If you're evil, you go to hell. Okay. But what we're talking about here is the problem of evil argument that is used by the atheists. Yes.
So like they would ask you like why is there evil in the world? It's like everything's supposed to be perfect and there's like a God.
Very good. Excellent. So yeah, that's the problem of evil argument. Your atheist friends will tell you that as Muslims, you people believe on the one hand that God is, what attribute does God always introduce himself with in the Quran? In the very first verse of every surah. Yeah? The merciful. So on the one hand, you claim God is merciful. He has a lot of mercy. And on the other hand, you also claim that God is all, Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. What does that mean? All powerful. Okay, so you have these two claims. And then you have our world, our planet, where there is so much hunger and suffering and starvation. There are so many wars in which innocent people are killed. Sometimes innocent animals are killed. Okay, and all of this evil and suffering that's happening in this world. Even, for example, the event of Karbala, Imam al-Hussein and all his supporters, his children, they were all killed mercilessly. So they say that if God is merciful, as you claim, and he's also all-powerful, why does he let all of this happen in the first place? Because the example they'll give you is you all go to school, right? If you had a teacher in the classroom, would the teacher allow the students to bully each other? Would you be able to harass or, annoy your fellow classmate while the teacher is present? No, because the teacher is both has power and has mercy, and because of that power and mercy, the teacher will not let you beat your friend or harass them or disturb them, right? They say, well, if God exists, why doesn't he stop human beings from oppressing each other and killing each other and doing all kinds of really rude and mean things to each other? Okay, let's start with you. Because he's testing us. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah. They don't look up to him for help? Okay, that's another very good response. Yeah. Okay.
And so like in that way, like it would fly, so it would have the strength part to it. So someone suffering in the world, like people somewhat in the way like need it to be able to come out strong and like in Karbala, the reason why Hussein and all the African suffered is Islam could later now like thrive.
Okay.
And become the greatest.
That's a beautiful point. What was your point again?
That they don't look up to him.
They don't, okay, they don't reach out to him, okay. Okay, any more responses? Or are these all? Yeah? Yeah, you want to contribute?
God gave you free will, so like,
Oh, okay.
he tells you what's right and wrong. So like, if you do the wrong thing,
Mm-hmm.
he's not like making you do the wrong thing.
Okay.
And like, for example, if you're in a classroom and like you have a test,
Mm-hmm.
like the teacher's not going to tell you the right answer
Okay. So you agree with this first response, as well as the fact that he has given us free will. So, but the question would be, why doesn't he stop people from doing that which is wrong?
Because it's a test.
Because it's a test. Okay. Any more ideas, suggestions? Yeah, you had raised your hand?
Well, he does this, like, when he said, and, like, he already tells us, like, don't follow shaitan, don't do this.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. He has already warned you not to follow the path of evil. Okay. The warning is there. Very good, mashallah. I think you are all certified Islamic philosophers, because you have given some of the best answers that the scholars have come up with to answer the problem of evil argument. Mashallah, you have listed them here. So I am very proud of you guys, and I'm very impressed to see that, mashallah, you are able to handle this argument. And all I would do is basically just elaborate on it. The test example is very good. You can always use it. And you can give, again, an example that if there is a little kid in your classroom, for example, and let's say you yourself are in nursery school, or let's say in grade 1, okay, and you are sitting for a test. Let's say it's a math test, and the teacher gives you question number 1 and says 1 plus 1, let's say, and then they give you choices. Okay, A, B, C, and D. That's how they do in multiple choice, yeah? So 1 plus 1 is either equal to 8, or it's equal to 6, or it's equal to 12, or it's equal to 2. Now suppose the student sitting beside you were to turn to you and say, you know what? Can you believe this? Our maths teacher is actually asking us this question. She's saying 1 plus 1 is equal to what? You know what this question proves? It proves that our math teacher is confused. She doesn't know math. She forgot the lessons that her teacher taught her when she was in school. Or maybe she was absent the day her teacher taught addition. Why? Because see, if she knew the answer, don't you think she'd write it down here? She's confused, and that's why she wants you and I to teach her, to check for her which one is the correct answer. So the tables have been turned. We are more knowledgeable than this math teacher. How would you respond? You guys are just laughing. You would laugh it off?
I would say that she already knows, but she wants to test us and see if we know.
Very good. That's exactly what my response would be. That, duh, it's a test. This is not, she's not asking you for help. She knows the answer, okay? And even those of the kids who have studied well, they know the answer. The point of this test is for you to check. She wants to know whether you have understood addition or not. And that's why she is giving you. Now, suppose if she were to do what you are suggesting, which is you are arguing that if the teacher had knowledge of math, she would just write the correct answer here, right? Well, if she would write the correct answer here, the test would be cancelled. It wouldn't be a test, right? In fact, she'd get fired for actually leaking the paper and giving you all the ready-made answers. So if it has to be a test, number one, there have to be false choices. There has to be one correct choice, and that's when it will be called a test. And the answer should not be given. In the same way, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in the life of this world, He gave us that note, right? That note beside our lunchbox, which we call the Quran, that tells us that Allah has, where does He tell us in the Quran that He's testing us? Do you guys know the reference, the surah? Many of you would have studied it at Saturday school, Surah Al-Mulk, right? Surah number 67, verse number 2. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Allah is the one who created the cycle of death and life to test you, to see which one of you does the best deeds. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had only kept one choice, and the other choices were not practical, or He had erased them and removed them, or suppose what these atheists want God to do, the question they're asking is, He's merciful, He's all-powerful, then why doesn't He stop the evildoers? Why didn't He stop Yazid from killing Imam al-Hussein, right? That's the kind of question they ask. So you tell them that if you are sitting for this test, and suppose you are about to tick or check B, and the teacher comes and stops you and says, no, don't check B, because that's the wrong answer. And you say, no, I feel this is the right answer. I want to write this. And the teacher says, no. She grabs your pencil and she checks this for you. Is this a test? This is a joke. You say, well, the teacher has played the role of the student. That's your job, right? So in the same way, if God were to physically intervene and prevent all the evil people from doing the evil that they want to do, whether it's the killing or it's the oppression, it wouldn't be a test. Number one. Number two, free will. So the only reason why there is evil in this world is because God has given people a free will. You are free to do whatever you want to do, but He has also given you the warning. He has told you what is good, He has told you what is evil, and He expects you, like the math teacher, she's put all these wrong answers. If, let's say you answer 6, and then when the math teacher calls you and says, hey, were you sleeping in class? How come you wrote 6? 1 plus 1 is 2. You say, well, math teacher, Ms. Linda, for example, why did you put 6 over there? Why did you give me this wrong choice? She'll say, well, it was a test. If I simply gave you the right choice, it wouldn't be a test. That's what God will say, that I warned you, I told you what was good, I told you what was evil, and I let there be false choices so that I wanted to see who is going to make the right choices and who's going to make the wrong choices. Who told you to make the wrong choices, even though I had given you so much warning? So that makes sense, right? God is testing us. He has given us free will. He has warned us. And yes, a lot of the times, much of the suffering that we see in this world is because people don't seek His help. That's the argument that's the moral of the story about that barber. Yeah, it's a famous story about this guy who used to believe in God. He goes to a barber to get a haircut, but the barber was an atheist. He didn't believe in God. So as this guy sat down to have his haircut, the barber started, giving him this whole lecture about how people who believe in God are so silly. He was like, how can anyone believe in God? There's so much suffering and injustice and oppression and so much evil in this world. I mean, if God existed and He was merciful and all-powerful, He would stop all of that from happening, don't you think? But the fact that He's just silent, He's not doing anything, He's not physically intervening, that proves there is no God. So I just think all those who believe in God, they're just silly people. They're illogical. So this guy, he believed in God, but he just sat there quietly listening to the barber go on and on and on about how people who believe in God are fools. He didn't do anything about it. After he was done getting his haircut, he paid the barber and he started walking out. When he walked out, on the street, he saw this homeless guy who was in a really bad shape. He hadn't had a shower for weeks. His hair were in a really bad condition. There was all dust. And he didn't have a proper haircut because the poor guy couldn't afford it. So after looking at the condition of this homeless guy, this guy who just had the haircut, he came back to the barber, the atheist barber, and he started yelling and shouting that barbers don't exist. Barbers don't exist. So the barber was very surprised. He was like, are you all right? Have you lost your mind or what? I'm a barber. I exist. I just gave you a haircut. So what are you doing yelling, barbers don't exist? So he said, come with me, I'll prove it to you that barbers don't exist. He said, okay. He came outside the barber shop and he pointed to that homeless guy. He said, look at that guy, look at his hair. Look at the sad and miserable condition of his hair. If barbers existed in this world, do you think there would be any people looking like that? The barber said, of course barbers exist in this world. This is what happens when you don't come to the barber, right? Because this guy was arguing that the job of a barber is to cut hair, right? To do your hair for you. But if there is a guy out there who hasn't had his hair cut, that is proof that there aren't any barbers in the world. Because if there were barbers in the world, that guy would get a haircut. But this guy disproved that argument by pointing out that no, the barbers do exist, but when you don't listen to the barber, when you don't go to the barber, when you don't follow his laws, when he asks you to sit down and cooperate with him and have that haircut, that's when you get people who look like that. In the same way, God exists, this man explained to the barber. He said, God exists, but all the evil you're talking about, that's what happens when people don't submit to God. They don't sign up for His plan of guidance that we call religion. Okay? So the fact that you see evil and oppression and injustice in this world does not prove that there is no God. Just as the fact that there are people in this world with very messy haircuts or inappropriate haircuts, that does not prove that barbers don't exist. It just proves that these people are not availing the services of the barbers. In the same way, all the evil and oppression you see is proof of the fact that people are not following God's plan. That's what happens when people do not follow God's plan. So I hope that's clear. The problem of evil argument, mashallah, I'm very happy to see you are all prepared for it. And that is very good to know. The creator one was a little bit more tricky, yeah? But inshallah, after the donut example, I hope chain of causation, primary, secondary, all of that's clear, right? And my aim, there's a lot more that we could have discussed in terms of, critical thinking exercises, also detecting some of the fallacies in the atheist arguments. But the aim of this workshop is not to cover everything, but simply to cultivate curiosity and interest. Inshallah, I'm hoping you're going to increase your studies, you're going to do more research about this, you're going to read more about this, inshallah ta'ala. And by reading more about this, you are going to learn more and more evidences and proofs and more knowledge that you can then use to counter the arguments. Because look, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ali's expectation of his followers is that you be role models, that you be ambassadors for the school of Ahlul Bayt. Wherever you go, anytime Islam is attacked, anytime God is attacked or people ask questions about God, you should be in a position to respond and to articulate the Islamic position on these things. Yeah, that's what it means to be a representative of the school of Ahlul Bayt in this day and age. And that's why I don't want to bore you any further. I just want to leave you with some advice, some free advice. Are you up for it? Okay. Are you going to accept it? Yes. Okay. So, yeah, there were some other questions that we could have discussed, but I think we're about to wrap up. So I'm thinking I'll leave you with a final word of advice on how to become a critical thinker. Because you see, what you are doing right now, mashallah, all of you, you were thinking, I was posing questions before you were thinking about them, you were trying to come up with responses, right? All of this is called critical thinking. When you deal with a question in an intellectual and academic manner, you try to come up with logical responses, you try to find examples, right? Patterns, all of that, it's called critical thinking. So my final word of advice on critical thinking would be that you basically, I don't want to give this advice myself. That's why I've brought my little friend. Where is he? My little friend wanted to impart this. Yeah. This is my reading mascot. He's my pet bunny. He's called Syed al-Aranib, which in Arabic means the chief of all the rabbits. So I have 7 rabbits at home. And yeah, I'm a rabbit person. So I love animals, but I'm not a dog person exactly. So I like rabbits. And the thing about this guy, Syed al-Aranib, is he's a big fan of reading. He loves to read. So that's why we're such good friends, because I like to read as well. And whenever I sit down to read, he comes and he sits down beside me for hours. He'll just sit there and mainly he sniffs my books. But I assume that as he sniffs, he's also taking in some of the knowledge that's in those books. And yeah, because he reads so much, all his other fellow rabbits, they respect him a lot. He's like their marja. They turn to him for all their guidance. Yeah, they follow his lead. And so he's my mascot, and he's here to tell you to quit Facebook and face your books. I don't mean that literally, because Facebook can be a very good tool. Social media can be a very big tool for resisting oppression, speaking out against injustice, spreading awareness. You can use the social media to spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, right? But what I mean by this is that you quit wasting time. A lot of people end up wasting a lot of time on Facebook. Many of you might be too young to be on Facebook, but in any case, it's always good to keep in mind that you should face your books, develop a reading culture. In this day and age, if you want to survive in this climate, you need to read a lot about Islam. Because every Muslim, man and woman, every Muslim male and female, you're supposed to have knowledge of your deen, awareness about your deen, especially the Quran. That is where you should begin. That's where you should start. And then, there are commentaries of the Quran, there's Nahjul Balagha, there's Sayf al-Sajjadiyah. This is a very important message that I want to give to all our kids and all our youths. And yeah, it's also very important to create a balance and not be all work and no play. Okay, and this is also one of the reasons why I brought my rabbit to give you this advice, is because I don't want to be someone who preaches what they don't practice. So when it comes to creating a balance and, you know, not being all work and no play, my nieces and my nephews think that I'm very playful. I spend a lot of time playing with them, so I guess when I surveyed them, they rated me as very playful. But my parents think that I'm not as playful as I should be, maybe. I spend too much time with my books, so I was kind of divided as to whether I should be giving this advice or I should. But this guy here, when it's time to play, he is so playful. And when it's time to, you know, read and study, he's very serious. So I guess he's the perfect person to be giving you guys this advice. And the main reason why I brought him here is because if I tell you to read and, you know, do all of that, you might be like, these egghead Maulanas, that's what they're always telling us. But you can't say no to such a cute rabbit, can you? When he's asking you and appealing to you to read, right? So I hope you'll listen to his advice and you will, inshallah, strengthen your connection with your books. You'll do more and more reading, inshallah ta'ala, and that way you're going to become very learned and knowledgeable. You'll become beautiful ambassadors for the school of Ahlul Bayt, so that whenever any Islamic concept or idea is challenged or questioned or people want to know about it, you will be the resource person that they'll turn to. And inshallah, just like you did here, you gave very good responses. Inshallah, you will continue to do that in the outside world. Okay, so it's been great having you this evening for this workshop. I learned a lot from you, mashallah. I really enjoyed interacting with you and picking your brains. And yeah, if there are any questions that you have at the end of it all, feel free to come up to me or ask from wherever you are. Or I believe that if anyone wants to write anonymously, we had cards as well. So yeah, that's it from me. And yeah, if you have any questions that you would want to send via email, you can reach me by email as well. And yeah, there's some question here. I saw some hands going up. No? Yeah, you have a question? Sure. Go ahead.
A couple of days ago, when you were giving the lecture, there was that one kid who was making a fit.
One kid who was making?
He was making a fit. He was like hitting people and doing all stuff. How did you completely ignore it?
Oh, okay. When was that?
I think it was on the 9th of Muharram, the 9th night of Muharram.
Oh, okay.
There was this one kid like that was over here. And was like,
Here in the center?
yeah, right here.
Oh, okay.
So there was one kid you're giving a right from, which is creating a lot of problem there.
Oh,
But we were worried that we will get distracted.
okay.
And I would have the same, I was amazed at the way you just completely...
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that very much because that's the thing, you know, that's one of the reasons why I end up taking more time than is allotted to me, is that I get carried away and I get so lost in what I'm presenting that but I do try to keep an eye out for any sleeping kids or any kids who are playing Angry Birds on their phones. So when I see that, you know, I try to bring in some story or something to wake you up. And but yeah, alhamdulillah, it's been great, mashallah. Your attention spans are remarkable. And from the feedback that you've given me about what you've learned, mashallah, I'm really impressed of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, and may you all blossom into amazing representatives for the school of Ahlul Bayt in the future, inshallah.